One. Good
Good
morning.
morning. It was
You
on time
you
together.
you be what's that, girl? You might have a delay on your side. Is your laptop and your microphone plugged in?
You know what? Wait, the laptop is plugged in, but not the microphone.
Damn,
I
Stephanie.
know. You know what's so funny? When you told me you were plugging your headphones in, I was like, oh, I have everything plugged in today. Listen, we're apparently at Liberation, and I am just trying to see what's exactly getting liberated.
Well, if you were here this morning, say good morning back to us. Let us know in
Good
the
morning.
chat, and we're gonna do a little advertising because I have dropped some new shirts for my book club nonprofit. Here we go. We have a bell hook shirt.
Yes. Make them
Octa-
bigger so everyone can see.
oh, I now have to click on the links. Let's
Lord, where
see.
is the other?
Here goes
Oh,
bell. We have a bell hook shirt, and there is a flash sale happening on the website. No discount code needed. It'll give you what I think I said it's a 20% off in the cart automatically. Then we have Octavia Butler. If my internet will stop lagging. Okay. There are new sons. Bell Hook says patriarchy has no gender. And then Zora Neale Hurston. I love the quote on this one. Those that got it can't hide it.
I like that one.
Real cute for all the Florida girls, for all the Zetas. Y'all can run this one up. Okay, it's a discount on the website until Monday. And I am trying to survive pollen season in North Carolina, so I apologize in advance that I look toe up from the flow up and I'm sniffling. I can't put no makeup on my face because you see these eyes? Do you see them? It be crackling
Don't
and
touch them.
dry. It's
You don't
hard
look
to
bad.
resist.
I know. You need aloe. Once this is done, you need some aloe and then just put it on your eyes like a cold compress. From bubble kid to bubble kid.
The tariffs hit. How soon did the tariffs hit?
Well, that is our first.
Yeah, somebody
Oh
saying they
no,
won't
we
be
moved it to
buying a shirt
second.
for 12 years. I think the tariffs are not. Some of the tariffs happened today, but there's been some stuff happening. The tariffs, I don't know. I don't know. When I was talking to my vendors in China, they were like, "There's ways to get around it," and I was like, "Oh, okay." They were not worried at all, so I was like, "Oh."
Oh my god, he's double clawed.
Did Trump put tariffs on the Caribbean?
He and quote the last thing I watched before we started this live, he is suggesting that he's going to quote because also we're dealing with somebody who they don't have a very good grasp of language.
Yeah.
So he stated and quote he's going to put tariffs on every country on earth. That was his latest quotable.
Yeah, but
So
aren't we like taking from the Caribbean?
yes, the U.S. is consistently still colonizing the Caribbean.
I
Yes,
mean, maybe not in
yes,
Trinidad, but like most of the tourism,
yes,
Jamaica, Americans.
yes. We have no beach because we are actively being colonized by the United States. Yes.
So, how do
Yeah.
tariffs work for American business owners abroad?
The interesting thing about like Jamaica specifically, there used to be a lot more agriculture and homegrown produce in Jamaica. And the US in the 70s and 80s came in and said, actually, no. Why should you Jamaicans drink from a Jamaican dairy cow? Our American dairy farmers, they need someone to buy this not good, what do you call it? Powdered milk. So they started forcing powdered milk onto Jamaica. There's a
Mm,
great documentary called Life and Debt. Highly recommend watching if you want to see the current
live and dead.
neo-colonization of Jamaica by the United States. We,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example, exported a lot. We used to export a lot of the bananas. That's why the bananas that you eat in the United States don't taste like anything. They're gross. The Cavendish bananas, they used to come from Jamaica, superior, much sweeter version of banana. But Chiquita, which is a huge corporation, they use
Yes, thank you, Bill
enslaved labor.
Clinton. Yeah, Bill Clinton is
Bill
the
Clinton is the
reason
root of all
why.
problems.
It's the reason why the Dole family has the
Yeah.
monopoly on the banana
Mhm.
business.
And
Yes.
that's why the bananas don't taste good. There's no sweetness in the banana because the bananas that they're selling you, they're resistant to everything, but they also are so genetically modified. They're not natural. And the one time that England ever did anything for Jamaica and the Caribbean, the English court went to court against the United States to be like, hey, this is a monopoly. You cannot suppress Jamaican exports. And the Dole family in the US won. So, no good bananas for anybody.
Yeah, the bananas in Ghana were small with a lot of seeds.
Yeah,
You
bananas are supposed to have seeds in them. Like banana's not supposed to look the way it looks in an American grocery store. They also abuse and enslave the people in South and Central America that work on a lot of these banana plantations.
Yes, thank you so much, Bill Clinton, for you and your third way neoliberal politic that is still overtaking the Democratic Party 30 something years later. Love to witness it, don't we all? Well, I guess we can start today with Trump. Today's going to be a
With
kooky day.
liberation,
Today's going to be very kooky.
it's gonna be kooky.
It's going to be
Calling
kooky.
tariffs liberation is a very he's titled it Liberation Day. He is liberating us from our 401k and our retirement. That's what he's doing.
Ugh, I'm not even logging in. I'm not
Don't
looking.
look.
I'm
I
actually
checked
gonna
mine
start
for no
contributing.
reason.
But we're gonna
So I
start
wouldn't
with
look.
Trump pardoned a company. Yeah, yeah.
Our
He
notes say,
pardoned.
what do we have in our notes? We titled this section "The Scammers Are Up."
Yes, and I titled the episode "Trump Loves Scammers" because he has pardoned a company sentenced to $100 million in fines for breaking money laundering laws, and here he is, so happy with himself. Um,
As far as I know, the president has never granted a full pardon to a corporation.
and
Yeah.
he did the corporate. It was, I'm trying to find the name of the company, but it was a cryptocurrency exchange company. BitMEX. I've never heard. It's
Hmm.
HDR Global Trading, the owner and operator of crypto exchange BitMEX, was issued at the same time as pardons for three of the company's co-founders and one of its employees. Just like people, corporations can be convicted of crimes. While they cannot be sentenced to prison, they face fines and serious consequences, such as being barred from federal contracts. And this company and the four employees had pleaded guilty to violating the Bank Secrecy Act, which requires businesses to take steps to prevent money laundering. The prosecutor said the company pretended to pull out of the U.S. market to avoid complying with the law, but knew its withdrawal was nothing more than a sham, even seeking out U.S. based influencers to market its platform. Yeah. And they got a
The
pardon.
it's wild because right now you're seeing Trump is the first crypto president. So a lot of his funding was from various crypto companies such as this. Crypto is largely a speculative asset.
Yes.
So without upsetting the crypto bros, it is very much when you start looking into it akin to an MLM scheme. MLM pyramid scheme. And it's very fast. It's like it's not surprising that he's pardoning them because they most likely donated to his campaign. Um, but it is surprising in that again, this is unprecedented.
Mm.
This doesn't make sense. They have been found guilty of money laundering. It's not a question of, oh, they're going to court and he's throwing his weight, but which would also be unethical and questionable. They have already been found guilty of doing the thing that they said they were doing, which is money laundering. And a lot of crypto has been used for money laundering.
And it's just crazy because folks are cozying up to Trump to get away with their scammery, like the New York City mayor, Eric
Who
Adams.
will soon not be our mayor? Amen.
But that visit to Mar-a-Lago is paying in dividends because the charges were dropped against Eric Adams.
I would like to shout out for once, because I'm never on the fan of the prosecutors, never on the side of the prosecutors, but the majority of the prosecutors resigned because they refused to file the paperwork to drop his charges. So the judge stepped in because who is the blonde woman running the DOJ now? Pam
Pet
Bondi.
Bondi.
Pam Bondi. stepped in and forced the judge to drop his charges. So there was a lot of spine shown by the lawyer to say, no, we're not dropping this man's charges. He is not only an alleged scammer, he is also, in my opinion, an alleged cheapo, because he received just very basic first class flights, allegedly from Turkish Airlines. His name was on the flight manifest, so he did receive the flights. A few vacations, nothing actually of worth to jeopardize his entire career and what he was doing.
It was just a stupid move made by a
It was very,
stupid man. And
he's not very
now,
smart.
and now, like that headline, waking up to see on the New York Times at the top that Eric Adams' case was dropped, was like, oh, damn, sorry to the New Yorkers. But now, waking up this morning to this headline, I had let out a good cackle. With Eric Adams is to run as an independent, skipping the Democratic primary. Now we just got to
Because
get
he'll
Kumo out the
lose.
way.
He will not, because back to ranked choice voting that we talked about last time, he will most likely not make it past the round of the Democratic primary. Our Democratic primary is essentially like the big horse and race pony show. So like whoever wins the Democratic primary usually wins the overall mayoral primary, which for the New Yorkers, our Democratic primary is June 24th. Let me double check that. So make sure we go outside. We have very low mayoral race turnout, about 27%. So hopefully if we can get that up. Let me double check that date so I'm not lying. Yes, June 24th. So that's why he's skipping it. But him running as independent is comical because he's a Republican.
I mean, it's just a slow step over. Maybe the Republican Party will pick him up and like run him for Congress or something.
In Jersey, where he actually lives, maybe that will work for him.
Upstate New York.
Upstate New York is very red. Once you pass Westchester County, you get in a little.
Alana saying the black vote in New York will be divided, but like, is it what is the black vote in New York? If 27% of the population that is eligible to vote turns out for the mayoral primaries, I imagine it's a lot of older black folk.
The aunties vote. The church going aunties of Flatbush,
And they
PLG,
are
Crown
they
Heights.
are they are pro identity politics, pro representational politics, pro police.
They are all those things. They have also been scammed by Eric Adams' best friend, Bishop Whitehead, who literally was scamming church aunties and is now sitting in a federal penitentiary for scamming church aunties out of their savings account.
He might get commuted too.
I will be so mad if Bishop Gucci suit ends up back on the street. I will be so upset. Not to advocate for prisons. I'm not advocating for prisons. But
Wow.
he needs consequences.
I'm excited to see Stephanie engage with New York City constituents to motivate more people to get out and vote.
I will be knocking on your door. Don't worry. It will be
I'm
just
kind of
beginning.
shocked with as much press as the New York mayor's race gets that more people don't vote.
I think it's honestly, I think people think like, oh, my neighbor is gonna do it, so like, why do I have to do it? And like, they just forget. But I was shocked. I thought we would be at least at like maybe like 40%. So to see that the turnout is 24
27.
to 27,
Y'all
it's
got to
very low.
smack back the boomers that want to vote for Kumo. Like, come on.
No. And I think I was doing like a little more research over the week. Mondani, I need to look up how to say that man's name. The Democratic Socialist, who the Working Families Party has pushing, that has a lot of, I would say, like common sense, good platform ideas. I think he can win over the older aunties
Yeah.
if he goes and knocks on their door. I think
I
if they like, he goes to some churches and is like, listen, I'm a man of faith too, a different faith, but I think they are fine with that. They like the face recognition, I would say. And one thing Eric Adams did was he did go into all those churches and just say whatever they wanted to hear, lied to them.
which is what Trump did. He got on all those
Mhm.
podcasts and said whatever people wanted to hear. A very effective political strategy. Um,
People feel special if you come to their neighborhood, you eat their beef patty, you do whatever. So I think he seems to have a decent team around him. Where April, we have a few months. I think once it gets warmer, if his team does that outreach, I think it would matter. And then also like the demographics of New York are changing so much. You gotta go engage the gentrifiers,
mm.
and the gentrifiers are also suffering from the high rent. So all they want to hear is, hey, can I qualify for rent stabilized rent? Because you have to live in an older building to qualify. They're knocking down the older buildings to make new buildings just to get around giving people rent stabilized rent. It
Mm.
is a con put in place by Eric Adams. And his, I forget what the name of the department is. What the rent department? There's a word for it, but he's allowed rent stabilized. It's like by percentages. He's raised the percentage. So I think if Mondani advocates against that, which it seems that he is, he's advocating for a rent freeze for everyone with rent stabilized, so people can catch up on their rents. So I think he has the policies for it. Just whether or not I can get enough boots on the ground. So I'll go volunteer when it's warm
And hopefully
and
no
go.
scandal takes him down.
Hopefully not.
Cause
Like,
you know
sir,
them
please.
those New York City like landlord associations have been paying people that have been advocating in the rent space, like people that were pro tenant, they've been offering them like huge contracts as consultants to get them to remove like so they offer somebody like $150,000 to switch up what they're and the people taking the money. Like there's been several
Wow.
write ups about this.
The City is a great publication. Like if you live in New York, the City does all of the New York City like hard-hitting publication. Like they've been reporting on Eric Adams' foolery before the New York Times caught on, or before the New York Times wanted to catch on to Eric Adams' foolery.
Yeah.
So but yeah,
All
in
right,
New
let's
York, also to Alana's point, in New York, you do have to register as a Democrat to vote in the Democrat primary. So while I myself am not a Democrat, I am registered as a Democrat because that's the only way you can vote in the primary. So
yes.
everybody Working Families Party is proposing, not all of them are Democrats, but that's the only way. Why do these people keep calling me? I keep telling them I'm in a meeting. That's the only way
You got a
that
D&D. You got a D&D your devices.
it's my family. I
Yeah,
told them not
D&D.
to.
I keep telling you, if you swipe down on your phone D&D, it won't ring.
True. I feel like I have so much guilt. I have too much like oldest daughter guilt about everything. Uh, okay. Let me swipe. Let me. I've never D&D'd them. Anyways. I think
Let's
my
move
dad is
back
gonna
over
have
to Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, which everyone is kind of very. I think most people that I've seen, and I don't know if it's just the algorithm doing what the algorithm does, but a lot of people are deeply concerned about the implications of these tariffs.
And I think people should be, because essentially when the way that tariffs works, if you put tariffs, for example, we are the largest importer of Chinese goods. Most of our things are, well, sure, this water bottle. Let's see.
China.
Okay. Most likely. We can, I think that's an honest, easy guess. You
Look,
tax the importation of goods.
the headline was
Hmm?
updated. It's not just tariffs; it's a global trade war.
Well, you tax the goods. The corporation has two options. One, they absorb the higher price. The corporation doesn't care about you. They don't care about me. They're not going to absorb the higher price. They pass on that price to the consumer. So we already live in a high inflation country, despite what the DNC wanted to run on last year. We are living in high inflation. Now our high inflation is going to become increasingly worse because now we're going to have to pay more for the water bottle, for the eggs, for the etc.
Hmm.
So global
I don't know why my screen went black when I was sharing this
trade
article.
war. Mm. All of this is completely unnecessary, by the way. It should be noted that the economists, even the far right economists, have told the pumpkin in the palace that this is a bad idea. And he has like some type of fixation on it. So I hopefully all of his supporters in middle America and everyone else will rightfully blame him when this all becomes extremely negative and when they log into their 401k and realize, wait, I have lost insert X amount of money in my 401k because the stock market is also dropping. I don't recommend looking at your 401k right now unless you just, have a high level of effort in your body and you just are being curious. It's dismal. And other countries, of course, rightfully, in my opinion, are now instituting reciprocal tariffs. So we'll talk about that in a second.
What are reciprocal tariffs? Charts
Yeah,
show the
so they're
reciprocal.
smacking back
Huh.
on American goods. And I think, I was thinking about this earlier. since we live in empire and as people who are advocating against empire, but we still live here, born here, I'm glad the rest of the world is like, why should we deal with y'all? Like, y'all are always trying to bully everyone, doing foolishness. So I'm glad the rest of the world is smacking America back. But also, do I personally want to deal with the consequences? Absolutely not. But here we are because we have foolish leadership in place.
Ah,
So the person that's going to get hurt is not our billionaire president who's probably hasn't been in a grocery store in decades. It's us that actually go into the grocery store.
yeah.
I wonder what impact, if any, this will have on his constituents, like their feelings about him.
Mm. Yeah, something's going on with my share screen. Hold on. This is weird. Because, like, the screen froze.
Mm-mm.
Let's just do it manually. Okay, here we go.
Oh,
Yeah, because
not this guy.
there was a. Sorry, I was trying. Because you said something about reciprocal, and then they have this picture. Let me see if I
Mhm.
can bring it into better view.
I think the EU, because they're 6 to 8 hours, 6 to 7 hours maybe ahead, depending on where you are in the EU. They've already started theirs, I believe. And then East Asia is also China, Japan, and South Korea have decided that they will get along just to smack America,
So,
which rightfully America deserves.
what are reciprocal tariffs?
You put a tariff on me, which is essentially you're taxing the goods that I sent into your country. So now I'm going to tax the goods you send into mine, which that is more likely causing the stock to drop
Okay, so
because
the
now the companies are losing money.
tariffs charged to the U.S. 67%. That means China's charging the U.S. 67%, and the U.S. discounted reciprocal tariff is 34%.
These numbers are extremely high. I think the normal amount, because tariffs exist usually at all times, I think like a friendly amount was around like 10%, just like for context of how extreme this is getting. Because as the consumer, who is absorbing this 50% difference? It's us.
I can't think about it. I
Listen, it
I guess
because
I'll be
there's
buying
nothing
more.
else to do.
I'll be buying more canned foods. I wanted to get a generator, but they're like $3,000 to $4,000. So I was like, I just might have to learn how to live without power. Um, I ain't got the funds for that right now. But I was like, I bought like a burner, a gas, a propane, like when you put like a little gas on, you can cook on.
Mm-hmm.
I got flashlights. I got a lot of batteries. I guess I'll
You
start
have a
buying
stable
canned
grid
foods,
in North
huh?
Carolina, right? I said the grid in North Carolina is
But
stable,
what happened?
connected to the
No,
federal
what
grid.
it's Duke Energy, and like our state legislature keeps passing laws that allow them to charge whatever they want to the consumer. So if the
Mm.
economy collapses, it's not even that like if people can't pay anymore and there's no money, if the dollar depreciates, like we might be on our own. I need to learn how to garden for real.
I think a safe assumption is in the next into the summer this is going to spiral because somebody has to back down, and if it's the United States, the Trump administration is using like an isolationist, like historically we've done this before
Hmm.
and it didn't work out last time either. And he's basically using like an isolationist, populist playbook of like, America first, only America. America relies on imports from all these other countries. We don't make a lot of things in America anymore. And that is because corporations have realized, like, I export all this labor, it's cheaper because they want to be cheap. They don't want to give people healthcare. They don't want to give people a living wage, etc. It is going to get it's going to get to a bad place unless the Trump administration backs down. The entire world is not about to kowtow to the United States. The entire world is rightfully fed up of the United States. I wish we weren't here while this was going on, but here we are.
Uh, uh,
I think this will also affect like um, older people in your life, so people that were about to retire, they're the ones immediately impacted when retirement accounts go get drained, because the financial modeling and thinking of the way our stock market is supposed to work is that over the 30 to 40 years of your career, yeah, it drops, but it comes back up. It drops, but it comes back up. But if you're retiring now and you're 65 and this man is tanking the whole thing, that's a lot of your hard earned money. Like, you may not, unfortunately, due to the healthcare, the stress of this place, live long enough to see it rise. But also, that is assuming that our stock market can somehow rise above totalitarianism and a dictator, which I don't know that it can.
Uh,
We're going to need the Eastern European girlies to come to the front and give us an education lesson, because they know.
yeah. Well, word to the Republicans. Oh, it's a black screen again. Damn.
Not word to the
Anywho.
Republicans.
Yeah, word to the Republicans, but Rand Paul and three other Rand Paul introduced a bill that would block Trump's
Hmm,
tariffs on Canada, and Mitch McConnell,
I forgot about that, man.
Murkowski, Collins, all three Republicans joined the Democrats to vote in favor for the bill. And if Rand Paul don't have no other politic, that man is not fucking with the debt that the Republicans are trying to add to the United States. He is not he's not a great person. He does not have great politics, but he absolutely is a libertarian. And if anything,
Mm-hmm.
he consistently votes against the Republicans who claim to want smaller government but continually present bills that actually expand the reach of the government. Cuz like when you think about it, who's overseeing the tariffs? Who's lobbying? Who's placing the tariffs? Who's collecting the tariffs? Who's
Great,
doing the math and management? That takes a lot of bureaucracy and administration to fulfill.
great questions. Because remember, he's laid off at this point.
Yeah,
We've
gutted.
passed tens of thousands. I think we're getting to the hundreds of thousands of federal workers. So, is this a giant money laundering scheme? Would be my next question.
He is gutting the federal government, but like also expanding the scope of work that the government has to undertake. And that, if nothing else, Rand Paul is like, stop, you dirty horse. You're spending too much money. And they did pass a resolution last
Will
night.
the administration listen to this resolution? As
No.
we're currently seeing the administration fight with various federal judges and ignore federal judicial orders, that my question is now, like, I don't even know if I want to say good job, Rand Paul. Rand Paul is doing his job. Okay, good. And
Mm.
now who is going to enforce the job that he is doing? Because that is actually a great question. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, Trump is very likely to veto this bill once it makes it, but it is the first like strong effort by Congress to
Hmm.
limit the scope of these tariffs. And it's a shame that I know Mitch McConnell on his deathbed. That's the only reason he don't want his stock messed up. He must have some huge stock coming out
Like,
of.
wanting to die with your money is a wild concept.
Uh,
Sir, it's not coming with you to the fiery place that you might be going to.
I don't even know if he has children.
He does, because Mitch McConnell's. I think he's married to that Asian woman. I think,
Evil
and I
man,
only bring
evil man. Why has
I
he been
only bring
alive
that
so
up because
long?
there are a lot of just to use a blanket term that I don't like. There are a lot of women of color that are non-black married to these very vile men, and I find it fascinating.
Usha Vance,
Usha
yeah.
Vance. Usha Vance also clerked for Justice Roberts, who's extremely right wing. So she
Mm,
holds those politics. I don't think she realized that those right wing people were going to be so xenophobic and racist towards her, which that is
mm.
a level of delusion.
She deserves it.
She does. I'm not going to cry for Usha. I'm not crying for Usha.
Here we go again. The black screen. The black screen. Do I need to get a new laptop where there's tariffs on China? And
Oh
MacBooks
no.
are made in China. They're made in China.
I wonder if the
Iguaja.
refurbished ones will stay the same price.
No.
Is that maybe that's wishful thinking?
Stephanie, you know better.
I listen. I'm trying to keep the hopefulness. I don't
Uh,
know.
you want to talk about this one? China
Yes,
and the
I thought this was
colonizer.
fascinating.
Yes.
So, China, Japan, South Korea will jointly respond to US tariffs. This is fascinating for multiple reasons. The first, like a very way too oversimplified, truncated historical lens on these three countries is Japan is historically, and I think in Western media, it's largely erased and downplayed. Japan is the historic colonizer of the entire Asian continent. Various other countries, I think it's fascinating that China and South Korea, predominantly in more recent history, Japan, all the way into the 20th century, was the colonial power in South Korea. They're still fighting about whether or not Japan is going to pay reparations to various women in South Korea that were horribly abused. So just to show like how recent this was, it's fascinating to me that two formerly colonized places and smaller parts of China were colonized. China is a huge country now. Have decided that they are so fed up with the United States that they will put aside their irritation with each other to come and say like, okay, we are a concerted economic bloc and we will not be dealing with this. So anyone that
You
thinks,
know,
particularly the
and
Trump
I what's
supporters, that mhm,
when you
go
brought
first.
this up, I was like, oh, Japan was a colonizer, but I watched Pachinko on Apple TV, which is about a Korean family that was forced to migrate to Japan due to their colonial rule in
Hmm.
Korea, and about like the complicated relationship and the xenophobia they experienced in Japan. And I read the TV
Hmm.
for all 9 episodes. I should have known better. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, you're fine. I think it's interesting because even in modern media, there's an anime. It's called Rule of Kings, King of Rule. I can't remember the name of it. It's very well drawn. Recently that came out where a lot of South Koreans went online rightfully and were like, "You see, look at our former colonizer playing in our face again." Where there's a depiction of South Korea as this like rural, backwater, uneducated, uncivilized place, and then the Japanese characters in the anime coming in and essentially not just colonizing them but also committing a genocide, and then under the guise of like, we're trying to civilize these people. It was very much from a US lens of like, oh, this is very familiar because this is like the United States does, and this also looks like England, but instead it's Japan. So they have current modern day tensions because it was modern day studios that created that anime. That anime is like 2 3 years
Yeah.
old at best. Um, so it is very interesting to see them coming together and saying like, you know what, we have a bigger problem, and that problem is the Trump administration. And our problem is America. So this idea that, oh, Trump is gonna somehow bully the rest of the world, no, he's not. That man is gonna have to back down, or he will drag all of us down with him. Those are the only two things that are gonna happen. The rest of the world is not about to play with the United States.
Okay, I opened the last article that we're going to discuss today, and that has had the entire internet in a tizzy. This is probably our levity for this today's episode, and I had a smile on my face because I recognized the campus in the building, and I was like,
Oh.
oh. I did. Oh,
You thought it was going to be the levity?
this is this is why. I mean, this is why everybody is talking about black men in colleges. And look at the yard. Let me see if my share screen. It's black. It's black. I have to keep doing it twice.
Come on, share screen.
I
You
don't
can
know.
do it.
I have to. We will not be
She's going
doing
to
a
do
live stream on Monday, so I will use some time on Monday to do some tech updates and figure out what's going on here.
it.
Well, it's such a pretty picture at black colleges. A stubborn gender enrollment gap keeps growing. Only 19% of students at Howard University are black men, whose enrollment levels at 4 year colleges have plummeted across the board. I haven't even read the article. I haven't really even. I don't like Torre. I've been down to the school trying to get caught up on class. I have not read a single one of these articles, but I do have thoughts as somebody who used to walk across that yard right there.
Yes.
The building I went to is like somewhere to the left over here, the fine arts building. But when I was at Howard, it was like 1 to 10 in
Wow.
2000. Yeah, this was 2004, 2005. It was already not a lot of black men at Howard
Mm.
University, and like black men were a commodity. Now, the campus is an open campus, so it was what you would call YNs. It was a lot of black men on campus, just not black men matriculating at the university. Now, part of the problem is
Well,
HBCUs have gotten excessively more expensive.
very expensive.
And there have been administration failures, and I can guarantee the article is not going to talk about how administratively frustrating it is if you do not have like a full ride from an outside entity to get things taken care of at HBCUs like FAMU and Howard and the AUC. Administration has historically been a huge frustration. I will say I think the biggest outlier, the biggest one of the biggest causes to black men not going to college is the socialization, and there's a lot of things we could talk about but that kind of converge to this moment about black men needing to be providers. And this huge conversation that we have been having for a decade now about hypergamy and marrying up, and you have 21, 19, 18-year-old girls looking at their equals saying, you got to pay for everything. I'm not saying this is a woman's fault at all, but I'm saying there's a lot of just conversations that we're not even thinking about where we are constantly telling young black boys and men that their first priority needs to be their ability to find financial stability, regardless of what juncture they are at in their life. There are so many ways young black men are socialized to think about how to get to the money first. I had a conversation with a young man at Costco because I'm a yapping ass bitch. He was making me an extra key for my Mazda. And I said, I was just talking to him. He's like, yeah, my girl pregnant, da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, well, before you had a baby, you going to go to college and finish your degree? And he had just been sold so much on his ability to rise up as a contract worker at this key making company and start his own business. And he's making this much money and he's focused on just, providing for his family. What's college going to do for me? And I'm like, you ain't even got to go. You could go to community college. Nobody was saying
Yeah.
go to like a traditional 4 year college. Just go get a degree. And I can't make it make sense to you why having my bachelor's degree, even if it's not directly how I got a job, has had such huge positive influences on my life. And this is one of the reasons why on my Patreon, where I did a video about hazing culture isn't going anywhere, I do think fraternities are worth their salt on some way because that was the biggest thing that kept men I knew to graduate, that kept them in school. Some of these boys are taking 6, 7 years to get out of a 4 year program. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but consistently, I know sometimes we want to shade that, but I know that oftentimes the dominant factor in them finishing that degree was the influence of the fraternity.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I
that's
have
what I
I
have to
have
start.
interesting. I'm processing that. I have differing thoughts.
Hmm.
So, for before I get into my thoughts, just for context, agreeing with everyone, HBCU enrollment is particularly starkly low, not just amongst Black students, Black boy students, but also Black women in general because it's too expensive, unfortunately. So, for right now, currently, only 9% of all Black college students attend HBCUs. It is cheaper to go to the state school PWI where like I went to University of Central Florida. I had Florida Bright Futures is a grant that they give you. Everybody automatically gets enrolled in it as long as you have certain grades, certain SAT score, paid for 75% of the college. It's so much cheaper. Even FAMU, that is a public, technically FAMU is a public university, but because it's an HBCU, it costs more than UCF. So on a
Hmm.
money standpoint, of course, like more Black students, 90% of Black students go to PWIs, which is why I vehemently do not agree with corporate. What they do is to say like, hey, we're trying to recruit Black students. They will only go to the HBCUs. They'll go to Howard, and I'm like, the majority of Black students, we're in New York, why don't you go to CUNYs? The majority of Black students are at CUNY. They're at various state schools. They're at the SUNY schools because we can't afford, we're getting money. And that's because HBCUs, unfortunately, are largely underfunded. So they're charging more for tuition. I think there are less young Black men overall in any type of college because we're not teaching the young Black male children that rejection is okay. There is a lot of like rejection avoidance that's like very gendered that I'm seeing. Where like women are socialized to be like, oh yeah, I got rejected. Like life moves on. I have to keep trying. Like I have to live. Versus now, like with Gen Alpha and Gen Z, like I'm seeing like in the younger population, any type of rejection leads to like a complete meltdown, like a meltdown of like, oh, everything's in shambles. I want to avoid rejection. I've seen like on an anecdotal note, a lot of young women on TikTok will talk about like how dating is like a lot harder for them than it was like for millennials because young men don't want to get rejected. They don't even make like the first initial conversation, and then you're seeing them like become very lonely, become very isolated, etc., because like they are so afraid of rejection. Versus women are not social, like young girls are not socialized with that level of like grace, to be honest. Like we are taught like you got rejected, like what did Aaliyah say, dust yourself off and try again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of sad. And I think largely, and it's like very interesting to me, public schools have done such a disservice to, and schools in general in this country have done such a disservice to Black children. But even with that, they've put so many more programs in place for young Black boys that do not exist for young Black girls. Like young Black girls are more likely to get suspended from school, receive harsher punishments, be ostracized at school. There's a lot of data around that versus young Black boys, it's similar. However, because like there's sports and there's various things, they are treated a little bit better in school. So I think the provider language, I guess like what I grapple with is, then why don't we see large amounts of young Black boys going into trades, which would be totally fine, but there's no like large number of Black men now. Like my dad is a truck driver. There's not a huge tick now of young Black boys being like, I'm going to get my CDL license because this guarantees me six-figure job. This guarantees me some stability. This guarantees that I can provide and do all these things, etc. So now I'm like wondering, like, wait, where are the kids going?
Because there's barriers to entry. They're doing something, and then
Yeah,
like as soon as a hardship happens, they check out. And I think unfortunately, like there's it's a multi-level issue. I think when the way we
yeah,
socialize young boys in community is often seen as a project of the female, right? That women are the ones that invest in the community and doing the community work, and men often enter into that community work through their intimate partner. So there's
mm,
no way to get through college without community. College is an incredibly difficult experience, and especially if you're moving far away from your home, if you're adding the first generation college student, you're not coming from a family who generally had access to college, you're making a lot of sacrifices to pursue this avenue. If you do not have the tools to build community, you're looking at women who
mm,
it seems that community comes to them so much easier. Like, and I would think about a lot of ways that we talk negatively about women, socialize young men to not want to invest in vulnerability. Like this idea that
yeah,
gossiping is bad, or that being in your feelings, um, you know, being sad, allowing yourself to cry, going up to somebody and actually talking about what's wrong and not bottling it in.
mm,
It's really hard. I think about like how me and my brother grew up in the same house, and broadly because he was a young man in the world, there's a huge influence that I did not have to contend with because I did not have these forces telling me what it meant to be a man, be somebody who could show my worth through my financial acumen. And trades take, you have to, trades now, there's private equity in trades. You have to pay a lot of fines and fees. You have to go through an apprenticeship. I think a lot of the young men are thinking about the immediacy. So they're thinking about entrepreneurship. There's the LLC movement,
oh,
party promoters. They
heard about
might
this.
yeah, they might be Amazon drivers. A lot of gig
Mm,
economy, a lot of contract work is what they are immediately jumping into because it's just about I want to make money. The black people, all the black men are security guards. Um,
blame the podcast men partially for this, to be
yeah,
honest. If we're gonna put a tariff on something, put a tariff on the podcast mics. because there are too many people, I won't even name them, where you're just watching them say foolishness and they target it at young black men and there's no substance to it. And a lot of them are approaching 50 years old. Joe Budden and co are approaching 50 years old, arguing on podcast mics, saying foolishness. Half a century on this earth saying foolishness. So I do have a lot of like empathy of like, wait, who is going to teach young black men like, hey, there's more to life. There's more to life than labor, first of all. But also like you do need some stability. I just don't know if I'm sold on this whole idea that like young black men specifically are being targeted to provide things, because I have yet to meet in real life that many hypergamy girlies. Like I think online it's something that gets people going. It gets people going to be like, I love free lunch, and so I use Joe Smo and whoever, and I got my free lunch. I've yet
Absolutely.
to meet the girlies in real life like, yes, I am scamming Sean, Daquan, and Joe for free lobster and pasta. I statistically black people, like black households, we are much more like equitable because we've been forced to be equitable in terms of money, in terms of like, oh, black corporate women overwhelmingly are more likely to date like working class men. That creates like various class conversation issues, depending on like the person's pride, their ego, their willingness to be vulnerable and be like, you know, I don't like that your coworkers look at me like this, etc. So I hope they start to do more studies before like we lose a whole generation of kids. Because I live like not too far from a high school, mostly black kids, and I'm just like, y'all need people to volunteer in the school. Like, what are y'all doing after class? Because I can see you and I can hear you, and I'm like, oh, so there's no programs in the schools anymore. Because why is school letting out and all of y'all are in the street?
Yeah, I think it's very sad because I am surrounded by a world of college educated black men. And that has been my saving grace during like the anti-intellectual movement that I have seen overtake the black community in the past 15 years.
Yeah. Maybe college educated black men, because most of the black men I know, not my family, but like Gabriel and his friends, they all went to college. Most of my family, they don't have degrees. Maybe the college educated black men need to be sent this article of like, hey, some mentorship, some, what is it, Big Brother, some programming so you can show the young boys like, hey, yeah, the podcast men are telling you get the podcast, you don't need to go to school. However, they look crusty and dusty, and I got my education. I learned about myself. I learned things, and I have a life that I like.
Yeah,
And
but
you too can have a life that you like.
word today, a lot of people are faking it till they make it. A lot of people think I'm going to become a creator. I'm going to get the podcast mic, or I'm going to rent the $45,000 house.
Oh, I
Uh,
saw that one. Scammer. Yeah, and if the comments on that, so for context for people that didn't see it, this family channels, woof, a bag of just, they need to be legislated because it's very problematic. Anyways, before we get into that, this family channel couple, the husband is clearly black, the mom, I don't know. Um, so they said during the pandemic, they rented a $45,000 a month house so that way they could make content with their children, under the idea that by being in this sprawling $45,000 a month mansion, they would get more brand deals. And it worked out for them that they were getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in brand deals. The entirety of that comment, instead of people being like, that seems a little precarious, like A, B, where did you get the first $45,000 from? Whatever. The comments were like, the transparency is refreshing. I
I'm
love
so
this.
glad you're
This is what we
succeeding.
need.
Like, and it's like, you know what? There's an underbelly side to that we know as creators, because the bottom will fall out, and you ain't got no personality. So what the
Immediately.
fuck you would?
The bottom will fall out. Your kids will get older. People like are very enamored with like the toddler phase. Little kids. People aren't so enamored with, a 8-year-old that has their own personality that is like, ugh, get the camera out of my face. It's content creation is also, it's the gig economy but glamorous. That's all content creation is, which is why I think it's very important that people are very honest from the beginning. We're
I
not having our
do.
live stream on Monday because my black ass is going back to corporate, and it'll be my first day and I have orientation.
I do wonder how the creator economy will be impacted by global decline, economic decline.
I think we'll see people pushing the boundary of what is it, clickbait farther, which is dangerous in my opinion. I think we're going to see. And there are so many people just like that are forcing fraudulence. Like, I'm selling this course to you because I have 10,000 subscribers, but I'm going to teach you how to get 100,000. Like, wait, that's not math. Like, I'm confused. So much grifting going on. So much lies. Like, even some of the lifestyle girlies, I've unfollowed them because I know that they're returning the clothes.
Mm.
I know that the clothes are gifted. I know that like things you learn, but like they're not going to say it to you. I'm glad, well, at least maybe it just doesn't come across my stuff anymore, but I'm glad the era of hauls seems to be
You're
done.
just not on TikTok.
Oh, okay. Because hauls are objectively wild, especially in this economy. I'm like, girl, that's going to the landfill. Like, where's this going? You bought 20 outfits, but there's only 7 days in the week.
Stephanie,
I'm confused.
should I protect myself by going to law school?
No, actually, I saw a reel which made me giggle that rising amounts of people are going to law school this year.
Yeah.
And that rise is a soft recession indicator because in 2008, 2009 financial crisis, you see a rise in law school. Oftentimes, people will go to law school to put off other things and then get themselves into six-figure debt. Please don't do it. Unless you really want to be a lawyer and you've interned as a paralegal and you're like,
No.
no, I'm going to be a lawyer. Don't do it.
I added the
Save
public
your money.
policy graduate certificate, and I'm really struggling in my public policy class because I did not realize it was so much
Oh, the math.
um data analytics. Yeah, the math, and it's like
The
the Greek symbol math. I was like, oh no,
math.
I need to learn this, but like that's a side of my brain I have not used in like 3 decades.
Ooh.
And
You
so I
can do
have
it. I
not done
believe in
any
you.
of my homework for this class, and I need to, and I'm struggling, and I'm terrified. But like, I went to a little like, they had like a reception last night, and I went and I saw other people's research, and I'm like, this is so much what I need to do, but
Mhm.
it's so psychologically daunting. Ugh.
We need to socialize people to not be so afraid of math. As somebody who's terrified of math, because I feel like sometimes half of it is that we are told from a young age, girls are bad at math, and then when you're bad at it, you're just like, okay, so I'm just bad at math. And then I think it would be so much easier if we had positive feelings about it. But I have very negative feelings about maths.
Mm,
In the words of
mm.
our innate cousins, very bad feelings about the maths. So I'm just gonna pray for you. I'm gonna pray for you in the maths.
Thank you for your prayers. Thank y'all for tuning in today. We'll see you in a full week, maybe.
Wait, no, we will. We will.
Okay, we'll see you on Thursday.
The re-rise of me being a full Jamaican with 3 jobs.
Yeah,
Listen, in
I'm
this
like
economy, that's all I
Stephanie
can do.
is committing. She's going back to being a lawyer and
Committed.
believes that we will be able to maintain
We
this
will.
podcast.
We
And
will.
I might need to
It
find the
will live.
faith in the mustard seed. That's what I'm going through at the moment.
There, you find the faith in the mustard seed. Find the faith in the mustard seed.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, we will see y'all next week. Enjoy the weekend. We hope this provided insight and levity. Go buy you
I have
some
one
canned
thing.
goods. Yeah.
Yes. And also, do not, I know it's very hard. From a financial standpoint, this is not financial advice, but a suggestion slash what I'm going to do and what I've seen all of the people with the actual degrees and all of the knowledge. Um, when the stock market drops and your 401k drops and your retirement drops, the worst thing they say you can do is to pull the money out. Because if you
Mm.
pull the money out, you have solidified and cemented the discount on something that you have earned. You have cemented the loss of the funds. So better, instead of cementing the loss of the funds, to just not look at it. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. So, and also if some companies, my old company did it and it wasn't something they broadly advertised. A lot of these fit, if you ask HR, they will give you free services to an accountant or to a financial advisor. So now is a good time to look up in your employee handbook or your benefits platform and see like, what benefits do I have, and talk to one, especially a free one. Might as well. But yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. And also don't sign up for law school unless it was really in your heart to go to law school.
Can I go to law
Okay.
school for free
I mean, maybe you might get a scholarship.
or low
If you get a
cost?
scholarship, I'm for free. I'm for free. Yeah, if it's free,
Aren't there
sure.
community college law schools?
No.
Oh, Let me finish the degree I'm trying to get. It's been a long time. All right, y'all. Have a good day. I'm gonna go take some Zyrtec and get my life together. Find this aloe that Stephanie told me about. Buy y'all some canned goods. Get you some batteries and some flashlights for the house. Maybe some walkie talkies or whatever. Prepare. All right.
And take a
Just
deep breath.
prepare, but prepare slowly.
Talk to an ancestor.
Don't engage in consumerism for the sake of, oh, I need to do all these things at once. Okay. Love y'all. See y'all Thursday. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.